DeMar DeRozan, likely one of the last of his kind. The guy who just simply does not fit the current mold of the NBA's 3-and-D type of game, pace and space type of play. You know, this is the ISO-driven, mid-range, deep two kind of guy. And right now, he's not looking like a great asset for an NBA team, but there's talk of that if he doesn't get an extension from the Spurs, he'll opt out of the player option that he has at the end of the season, worth $27 million. So I've got Colin and Roman here with me today to talk about DeMar DeRozan, where he may end up next season, and where he would fit the best. What do you guys think?
I want to start and just give a little take on my boy DeMar. DeMar is a legend in Toronto Raptors lore. He is probably the most influential person on me watching basketball today and like loving basketball today. With that being said, I think it'll be really hard for DeMar to find a landing spot next year. He's a great player. He's probably still a top 50 player in the NBA. But
arguably should have been an all-star this year.
Arguably could have been an all-star this year. But, you know, his game is really drifting away from what the NBA is currently leading towards. And we've seen that throughout the years of DeMar being in the league. We can see how his game hasn't really, you know, managed to evolve with the NBA. You know, like you see some players, you know, like earlier on in their career, they like make mistakes and they're learning and they evolve and adapt their careers to the way the NBA is changing. But I don't really think DeMar has done that. And that's not taking anything away from DeMar. He's still a great player. He's one of the top 50 basketball players in the world. But his style of play, you know, slow pace, isolation basketball, half court, you know, give me the ball, everyone else move. That kind of player, that kind of offensive strategy is really something that I think coaches in the league are trying to move more away.
Yeah, if there's no better example, I mean, look at the Raptors with DeRozan, simply could not get it done in the playoffs, could not win with the half-court basketball approach. First year he's gone, NBA champions with Kawhi Leonard, and they're trending towards a top 2 seed in the East.
It's looking good.
Going deep in the playoffs potentially. So
it's looking good.
And look at the Spurs right now, right?
I think I don't want to put all of the, you know, blame on DeMar for the Raptors not, you know, really, because I don't think with the Raptors squads that we had before we had Kawhi, you know, Lowry, DeMar, Valanciunas, those guys, I don't think the Raptors peaked as high as they could have. You know, it's one thing running into LeBron James 3 years in a row in the second round. You know, that a lot of that is just misfortune. A lot of that is just simply you can't really stop LeBron James. And I think the other part of it is that I don't think DeMar is that alpha dog guy. I don't think you can put DeMar on a team and have him be your best player.
Not anymore, at least.
Not anymore, at least. You know,
he could in
you know, 6, 7, 8 years ago, maybe you could have, but his style of play, and especially the type of basketball that teams in the league like to play now, it just doesn't fit his style. And I think with DeMar, his play style is, you know, isolation, one-on-one scorer. I'm going to use my skills, my body to get you in the post. But he doesn't have that alpha dog mentality. He never really peaked to where he was able to fully take over games on his own. He wasn't really able to peak fully where he could shut down the other player's best offensive player. You know what I mean? That was never DeMar, and that doesn't take away any of his greatness. I just feel like him specifically as a player is not quite the mold the players are looking for, and especially for a guy like DeMar who's going to be demanding like 25, at least $30 million in free agency. That's going to be a really hard bargain.
Yeah. What do you think, Roman?
Team-wise, obviously DeMar is still a good player, but if we're going to look at any teams that may actually take a gamble on him, 2 or 3 that come to mind, possibly, I think Memphis wouldn't be a terrible pick, since they still got a lot of young pieces around them.
They will have cap space, too.
I know Jacob was talking about Atlanta earlier today.
Yeah, Atlanta's possible because they have a boatload of cap space right now. A lot of cap space, and it'd be good to have an experienced guy. seasoned veteran with those young guys.
Yeah, for sure.
And the last one, I'm gonna throw Cleveland in the ring because they make really weird moves all the time.
Here's mine. I really like thinking about this all day. I really like this one. A team that has the ability to be a contender, have proven to be, just not quite at the level, but they have significant issues recruiting. I think the Portland Trailblazers could really use a guy like DeMar DeRozan to, make a, I guess, quote-unquote, big three with Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, run DeMar DeRozan at the 3. I think you'd have to do a little bit of something with Carmelo Anthony in that scenario. Maybe utilize him off the bench, running your second unit in that case. But I think DeMar DeRozan, like the Trailblazers have a really hard time picking up, any sort of talent, right? So,
I really want to comment on your Portland Trailblazers take. I think that's a great take. The only thing I do want to comment on is the fact that I don't know if Melo and DeMar on the floor at the same time would be
that's the one thing. They're very similar players. So but you could have Carmelo run your second unit per se. Have him maybe play as the 4. You could have DeMar DeRozan as the 2 in some scenarios if they're on the floor together. Like Carmelo can play as a 3, as a 3 and 4. DeRozan can play as a 2 and the 3. I just think that. Well, obviously you'd have to move on from Hassan Whiteside to make this work, and I think that
they would.
With Nurkic back, they are willing to do so.
With Portland, they're already really heavily locked into CJ and Dame. I think they would really have to make some wiggle room if they really wanted to get a guy like DeMar DeRozan.
Well, you move Hassan Whiteside's contract.
Hassan Whiteside, that's $27 million you get off the table. If you move Trevor Ariza, who has another year of his deal at $12.8 million. If you could find a suitor for him, that's
you may send him the other way, maybe the trade.
That's what I mean. I think a contender would not mind having a guy like Trevor Ariza on their roster. Hassan Whiteside's going to be a problem for sure. But I think that a team that just needs to go for it when they have Dame and CJ McCollum, especially with Damian Lillard. I think that this is a good move for them for DeRozan. I think the Spurs. You're probably trending toward a rebuild at this point. Unfortunately, you look at the pieces, they're not going to make the playoffs this year. I don't think. It really doesn't look like that's the case.
I think with San Antonio, their best days are behind them. They were probably like one of the greatest franchises of all time over that span of 20, 25 years. The things they did with Tim and Greg Popovich, that's a great team. But Greg Popovich is old, man. That guy's old as hell. He can only go on for so much longer, and his style of basketball. Right, the Spurs have failed to recognize the fact that shooting threes is the norm. I think, they have been in the bottom of the league in 3-pointers attempted, but for the past couple years.
Hang on, but the Spurs Greg Popovich just excels at using what he has. To his advantage.
I know.
So there were seasons where the Spurs are one of the best teams in the NBA, and also took the least amount of threes in the NBA and took the most amount of mid-ranges. I've done extensive research on this data, and I know this. So I think it's just Pop uses what he has, and right now he's got LaMarcus Aldridge, he's got DeMar DeRozan. He's got 2 guys who get busy in the paint and can shoot from mid-range, right? So he's got to utilize those to his advantage. Obviously, doesn't fit the current NBA, but I'm saying DeRozan looks like he might move on. LaMarcus Aldridge, 34 years old, he's not getting any younger. I think... let's be honest, the Spurs did not draft well in the last few years. They don't have a young core to build around.
Murray was an unlucky. I don't want to call him a bust yet, but he's not.
He's showing signs. His health is kind of derailed. His health kind of derailed.
Be what he's supposed to be.
Yeah. But is DeJounte Murray really looking like the guy that's gonna?
He's not looking like your guy.
One team that I think could be interesting for DeMar to look at, would maybe be the Orlando Magic.
No.
Here's my take. The Magic have failed to make any kind of presence in the East since they had Dwight Howard.
Didn't they make the playoffs last?
Yeah, they were they were a good seed mid 2010s. It's been a while.
Yeah,
but
and they had Dwight Howard. Okay, they made the playoffs as the 8th seed.
That was a lot after Dwight Howard.
Yeah. Okay, well, anyways,
he still made the playoffs.
I think the Magic need another scorer because I'm looking at their roster and I don't really see a true scorer on that team. They've got good players in Vucevic, Gordon, Terrence Ross, Al-Farouq Aminu, the absolute legend. But
Isaac there too.
Jonathan Isaac. They've got a lot of good pieces on that team, and I think they could definitely use a guy who is a proven scorer, right? Because Vucevic, he had his best career year last year, and he put up 22 points a game. Yep. That's good, but if you want to be able to be a team to make the playoffs, you need a guy putting up 25, 26 a night. And obviously, We know DeRozan can do that. I would have some concerns about the fit in the system, but I think it would be an interesting move.
What are they going to give up?
Yeah, the
free agents.
thing about this, well, okay, you're right. They have been in obscurity since Dwight Howard left. I was wrong. I don't know who I mixed them up with. But you're adding in DeRozan to a team where there isn't one player shooting at least 36% from three. So it's clear that what they need is shooting.
That's fair.
DeRozan coming in for a lot of money does not offer you that. I think we can kind of see... I can see a future where you can build around Markelle Fultz. He's only 21 still. He's showing great signs of improvement. Mm-hmm. He's shooting much better now. I think that's a point guard you can start to work around, especially a team like Orlando. You got to put shooters around him, though. You can't have guys like who are crowding up the space for him. I don't think DeRozan fits that dynamic as well as maybe a team like Portland. You got CJ McCollum, who's a sharpshooter. You got Damian Lillard, who one of the shoots from the logo Lillard, right? I think that's a better fit. The Orlando, I don't think that's a fruitful avenue to pursue because they're starters, guys like Aaron Gordon, like Markelle Fultz, like Jonathan Isaac. They're not formidable 3-point shooters. Same can be said for DJ Augustine, right? Mm-hmm. Al-Farouq Aminu,
the legend,
Evan Fournier. So not great shooting all around there. Oh, sorry. Evan Fournier is the only guy who shoots. There's only one guy who shoots. Evan Fournier shoots 40%. Everybody else is under 36.
Yeah.
So,
I think it'll be tough for DeMar to find a place that will offer him the money that he wants.
That's what I was going to bring up next.
And for him to get, A, the role that he currently has with the Spurs, or B, the touches. And I think DeMar, if he wants to make himself more attractive, he has to lay out what he's looking for in a suitor.
That's true. He's got to... Would DeMar want to go to Portland to be the third option?
That's true.
Right?
Well, are we looking at a possible kind of Derrick Rose situation here, where Derrick Rose was plagued with injury, came back, and kind of had to build his stock back up in the NBA?
Well, people know DeRozan's a baller still.
Everyone knows. Yeah,
almost an all-star.
Everyone knows DeRozan's a hooper. The guy put up like 28 points.
Is this the guy you want to build your team around? And I don't think any team in the NBA really wants to do that with DeRozan.
No.
Like, you know what? The Knicks may be stupid enough just to offer him money for the sake of it, but is that really the answer to the problems?
I don't know. And I think, he needs to make himself more attractive. He needs to at least start showing signs that he's going to be able to shoot the three a little bit better, or be more willing to shoot the three.
Because you know how many threes he has this season?
Do I want to know?
I don't want to know.
8.
How many does Curry have?
More than 8.
Oh, God. I remember a few years ago, DeRozan actually made a substantial leap in his 3-point shooting.
In his last season, Toronto had 89.
Yeah, he made, and especially for DeMar, who literally would not shoot threes. He would be wide open and would not take the three. And it was interesting because he was so cash from the mid range, that was his bread and butter. But as soon as he took 2 steps backwards, it was like, holy shit.
With Toronto in his last season, he went from 33 threes to 89 on 31% shooting. Wow. First season, San Antonio, he made 7 out of 45. This season he's made 8 out of 30. So he's just recognizing that's not his game.
Yeah.
I think, look, he's got a player option of $27 million.
He's gonna either have to take a lesser role or less money in free agency.
I think both.
It's gonna have to be both.
I think Portland's the best fit for him, so I'm gonna use them as an example. Am I paying my third option $27 million plus?
Probably not.
So what's a reasonable offer for him then? What do you think?
I don't know, man.
I think you're looking at mid to low 20s. Yeah. I think you're looking at $25 million max for him.
Yeah.
I call that fair.
I would pay him what he's getting now.
The thing is, DeRozan doesn't mind taking the Spurs. He just wants the extension afterwards. But
they don't want to.
Do they want to commit their future to an aging guy who doesn't fit the NBA's dynamic anymore? I don't think so. I think they should start to rebuild. So,
yeah, I don't know, man. There's a lot of things that could happen with where DeMar goes, and honestly, I just want to see him flourish wherever he ends up. Mm-hmm. I want him to, kind of fight back against the narrative that he is, I don't want to say washed, but that his game is washed. You know what I mean? I want DeMar to thrive on whatever team he's on, whether it be the Spurs, Portland, whatever, Orlando, who knows.
So we'll end it there. I think that's everything that needs to be said. As Raptors fans, we wish the best for DeRozan, though fortunately we couldn't get it done with him, but we got it done without him.
That's okay.
But let us know what you think about DeMar DeRozan's situation. There's probably going to be some opinionated Raptors on it. You can do so at social media, at MTRPDC, or in the comments on the YouTube video. All the links will be in the description for that, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. You can also listen to us on any of those platforms, and we post every single day. So keep coming back to the daily content. We will see you again tomorrow for another episode.